Welcome back to Raptor-One.
Raptor-One, Voyagers of the Stars. Season 2, Chapter 4, Echoes of Silence. The Drift. The nebula no longer bent into rigid arcs. Freed from the Autom node, it roiled wild again, violet storms crashing into emerald tides, lightning flashing like veins of living fire. And in that vast, chaotic sea, Raptor-One drifted. Her hull was scarred, her shields flickering weakly. The engines groaned with every pulse. Inside, smoke still curled from ruptured conduits, the air carrying the sting of ozone and burnt metal. The crew was silent, not the silence of the autumn, but the silence of exhaustion, of souls too battered to form words. Saranvale sat at the helm, hands still on the yoke. Their reflection stared back at them in the cockpit glass, eyes heavy, shoulders bowed, yet steady. For the first time since the trial, they allowed themselves to release a trembling breath. They had survived, barely. The scars of the battle. Varric Thane slumped in engineering, his cybernetic arm sparking faintly, circuitry fried. His chest rose and fell raggedly, the smell of scorched metal clinging to him. He worked even now, prying open panels with his other hand. She won't hold another fight like that, he muttered. Not without ripping herself apart. Darrow Core remained at his station, fists clenched on the gunnery controls. The ghosts of his squad lingered in his hollow, louder now after the node's assault. His jaw was iron, but his eyes were glassy, haunted. Too close. Too damn close. Ira Morn sat with her hands pressed to the glass of the navigation console, tears drying on her cheeks. The stars she saw were still trembling, as if the constellation itself recoiled from the node's touch. I felt them unraveling. I thought I'd never hear them again. Chiron Solari leaned against the comm station, his hood shadowing his face. Blood streaked down from his nose, his breath shallow. The whispers of betrayal hadn't faded. They coiled in his hollow like a parasite. He hadn't told the others how close he had come to giving in. Tessa cradled her shard close, humming weakly. The glow had returned, but faint, fragile. Her song was hoarse, almost gone. Yet she kept it steady, unwilling to let silence reclaim them. Cyrus lay back in his chair, his hollow drone flickering overhead. For once, he had cut the stream. No billions watched, no voices cheered. It was just him and the crew. His grin was faint, more defiance than joy. I can sell a close call, he muttered. But even I can't sell almost being erased. The captain's weight. Saran rose at last, their legs unsteady but firm. They looked over their crew, broken, scarred, but alive. The braid still pulsed, faint but enduring. This node, Saran said quietly, voice carrying across the mess of smoke and sparking consoles, wasn't the gate. It was a shard of it, a fragment, and it nearly destroyed us. The bond hummed with the weight of the truth. Chiron's voice was hoarse, but sharp. If the gate itself is worse than this, and it will be, then we don't stand a chance. Ira shook her head, her voice trembling but steady. The constellation brought us here for a reason. The flame kindled. That's what matters. Darrow snorted, bitter but not dismissive. A flame's not much against a storm. Tessa lifted her shard, its faint glow brushing their faces. Even the smallest flame can guide the lost. That's why we endure. Saran closed their eyes, breathing deep. Not perfection, not certainty, fracture. When they opened them, the captain's chair still loomed in their hollow. But for the first time, they didn't see it as a prison. They saw it as a choice. We'll heal, they said. We'll fight. And when the gate comes, we'll be ready. Because silence doesn't end us. It proves why we must endure. The echo. The nebula rumbled, resonance answering faintly. But beneath the stars, deeper still, a whisper lingered, cold, vast, and human. The silencer waits. All error will end. The crew shuddered. The warning was clear. The battle at the node was only the beginning. Raptor-One pressed on, scarred but burning bright, carrying flame into the dark. Raptor-One, Voyagers of the Stars, Season 2. Chapter 4, Echoes of Silence, Part 2, Recovery and Reflection. The Wounded Ship. Raptor-One drifted deeper into the nebula's calmer tides, the immediate threat behind them but the scars plain. The ship's lights flickered as if uncertain, bulkheads groaned, and the smell of ozone clung stubbornly to the air. Varric, despite the burns along his arm, had dragged himself into engineering. He muttered curses under his breath while tools clanged and sparks spat. Panels lay open like wounds. "She's bleeding everywhere," he grumbled. "Hull stress at 30%, engines barely hanging. If she were a living thing, I'd call it a miracle she's breathing at all." Tessa appeared quietly at his side, shard glowing faintly. She didn't touch his scorched arm. She knew better, but she let the shard's warmth rest close. The hum steadied the flicker in the circuits. Varric blinked, surprised, then muttered, "Guess we both patch things together with light." The med bay. In the med bay, Darrow sat stiffly on the edge of a cot, while Ira tended to a deep gash along his shoulder. He had refused pain suppressants, jaw tight, but his eyes softened as Ira hummed under her breath, the tune threading faint resonance. "You don't have to sing," he said roughly. "I do," she replied softly. "Not for healing wounds. For reminding you you're not alone." He shifted, uncomfortable, but didn't tell her to stop. For the first time since the node, he allowed silence without ghosts pressing in. The lounge. Cyrus sprawled across a couch in the lounge, his drone hovering idle above him. He'd cut the feed for the first time in weeks. No performance, no eyes on him. Chiron stood near the viewport, arms crossed, his hood hiding most of his face. "No stream?" Chiron asked quietly. Cyrus smirked, weak but genuine. "Didn't feel like broadcasting broken ribs and blood. Even my fans don't want to see me wheeze." Chiron tilted his head. "Or maybe you didn't want them to see you human." For a moment, Cyrus looked ready to bite back. But then his grin faltered, and he chuckled instead. "You're not wrong, Shadow might. Feels strange being just me." Chiron looked away, his own words sharper than he expected. "We're all just us. Pretending otherwise doesn't make it easier." The silence between them wasn't heavy. It was understanding. The captain's solitude. Saran lingered in the cockpit, staring out into the nebula's light. The echo of the node's doctrine still pulsed faintly in their hollow, as though silence had left a scar inside them. The captain's chair loomed, as always, but now it seemed less like a prison and more like a weight they chose to bear. They touched the armrest, whispering to the empty room, "I will carry this. Not because I must, because I choose to." And for the first time, the chair didn't feel cold. The crew regathers. Later, the seven gathered again in the mess hall. The hum of the braid was faint but steadier than before. Tessa's shard pulsed warm between them. Darrow's bandaged shoulder was stiff, but his eyes were sharper. Varric's arm smoked faintly, but it still moved. Chiron's voice was quiet, but no longer cracked with doubt. Ira smiled faintly, eyes still glistening from tears, but bright. Cyrus's grin returned, crooked but real, his drone recording only for the crew. Saran stood tall. The burden of command settled his choice. They raised their cups again, this time not for defiance, but for survival. The ominous whisper. But as they toasted, the nebula shivered, carrying a faint echo of the node's voice. The silencer waits. All error will end. The crew froze, breath tight, eyes locked on one another. The warning wasn't gone, it lingered like a wound. The war was only beginning. The debate begins. The mess hall was dim, its lights flickering with the aftershock of battle. The crew sat around the scarred table again, ration cups in hand, the silence thick with unspoken fears. The echo of the node's voice still lingered in the bond. The silencer waits. It was Chiron who broke the quiet. His hood shadowed his eyes, but his voice carried sharp and certain. We can't fight something like that again, not alone. The Autom don't just bring ships. They bring certainty. To face the gate, we'll need allies. Darrow snorted, setting his cup down hard. Allies? The Concorde won't even whisper the Autom's name out loud. Half the galaxy pretends silence doesn't exist. He leaned forward, jaw tight. You saw how close that node came to killing us. We don't have time to beg cowards for help. The radiant question. Ira's soft voice rose, threading into the bond like starlight. The Constellation led us here. The radiant kindled because we endured. What if that's the answer? More radiance. Each one a flame. Each one guiding us closer to the strength we'll need. Tessa nodded, holding her shard against her chest. Its faint glow pulsed warmly, answering. The radiants are not just power. They are memory. They carry us forward. If the gate is silence, the radiants are the song that defies it. Chiron frowned. Even if you're right, we don't know how many are left, or how many trials we can survive. We barely held this one. The voice of billions. Cyrus leaned back in his chair, bruised ribs making every breath a wince, but his grin persistent. His hollow drone hovered silently at his side, recording nothing, waiting. You're both right. We need radiance, and we need allies. But we've already got something the Autom can't calculate. He tapped the drone, its lens blinking faintly. Billions. They watched us fight the node. They saw us bleed, and they saw us win. They'll remember that. Noise spreads faster than silence. Varric grumbled from his seat, arms still sparking faintly. Billions cheering doesn't patch hulls or fire cannons. No, Cyrus said, eyes glinting, but billions believing might. Noise inspires. Noise recruits. You want allies? Show them defiance. Show them fracture that refuses to die. And they'll come. The captain's choice. Saran listened in silence, letting the voices weave. Chiron's pragmatism, demanding allies. Darrow's fury, warning of wasted time. Ira's hope, pointing to the radiance. Tessa's faith, carrying memory. Varric's grim practicality. Cyrus's belief in the power of noise. Each voice carried truth. Each voice clashed. The chair still loomed in Saran's hollow. But now, when they closed their eyes, they didn't hear silence. They heard them. Saran stood, their voice calm but firm. Then we do both. We seek radiance, because each flame strengthens us. And we carry our noise into the galaxy, because allies must hear us to find us. The Autom built a gate to silence us. We answer with flame and noise. The braid pulsed, scarred but bright. The path ahead. Ira smiled faintly, eyes bright again. Then the next radiant waits. Chiron exhaled, sharp but accepting. And so do those who still dare fight. We'll find them. Cyrus tapped his drone, smirk returning. And billions will see it all. The galaxy's already listening. Let's give them something worth believing in. Saran nodded, steady on their feet. Then it's decided. We hunt the next radiant. And we let the galaxy know that silence will not win. Outside the viewport, the nebula's colors swirled wild, untamed. The hunt had scarred them, but it had also forged them. The Autom's echo still lingered. The silencer waits. And Raptor-One pressed on, flame against the dark. The debate rekindled. The mess hall was heavy with exhaustion, but Saran's decision to hunt radiance and rally allies sparked a current through the crew. Some faces showed resolve, others hesitation. The node's destruction had proven the Autom could bleed, but it had also shown how close silence had come to erasing them. Chiron broke the silence first. You speak of allies as if they're waiting with open arms. Most hide behind treaties and whispers. If we ask for aid, they'll bury us under committees. Not everyone, Iris said softly. Her gaze was distant, as if she heard something beyond the walls. The Constellation remembers those who still stand against silence. Fragments of song that refuse to be erased. Varric snorted. If they exist, they've been hiding well. The memory of the shards. Tessa set her shard on the table, its glow faint but steady. Not all voices were lost when the choirs fell. I've heard them, faint threads carried through resonance. Survivors, outcasts, a network hidden in the cracks of silence. Darrow raised a brow. A secret choir? Why haven't they come forward? Because the Autom hunt them first, Tessa replied. But they endure. They call themselves the resonant accord. Fractured, scattered, but unbroken. If we can find them, if we can prove we carry flame, they may stand with us. The weight of noise. Cyrus leaned forward, grin flickering despite bruised ribs. You're saying there's an underground alliance of shard-bearers hiding from silence? His drone pulsed faintly, eager. Perfect. Billions are already watching us. If the Accord sees that we fought a node and lived, they won't just hide in the shadows. They'll reach for us. Chiron's eyes narrowed. Or they'll stay hidden, fearing we'll lead the Autom straight to them. Cyrus shrugged, grin sharp. Then we give them something undeniable. A flame they can't ignore. The captain's decision. Saran listened, letting the voices weave as always. Tessa's faith in hidden voices. Chiron's suspicion. Darrow's pragmatism. Ira's quiet conviction. Varric's doubt. Cyrus's relentless belief in noise. The captain's hollow throbbed, the echo of the nodes still heavy. But when they closed their eyes, they didn't hear silence. They heard the crew. At last, Saran spoke. Then we search for the Accord. We hunt radiance, yes, but we also seek those who endured, those who refused erasure. If the galaxy won't name the Autom, we will. If others won't carry flame, we'll carry enough to light the dark. The braid pulsed, answering. The whisper of allies. Ira closed her eyes, listening to the constellation. Her voice was quiet, reverent. I hear them. Faint, but real. A signal buried in the nebulous hum, a fragment of song. The Accord is near, watching, waiting. Tessa's shard glowed brighter, resonating with the same echo. They know we're here. For the first time since the node's destruction, hope stirred. The road ahead. Varric grunted, dragging his sparking arm into his lap. Then let's hope they're more than whispers. Because if the gate is real, we'll need every voice we can get. Saran nodded, eyes steady. Then it settled. Our path leads to the Accord. Radiance and allies. Flame and noise. Against silence, we carry both. Outside, the nebula swirled wild and untamed. But within its folds, a faint signal pulsed, fragile, hidden, but alive. The resonant Accord waited. The signal. The nebula's storms had calmed into slower tides, violet and emerald light shifting like deep ocean currents. For hours, the crew drifted in tense quiet, patching wounds, repairing systems, and nursing their hollow scars. Then Tessa's shard began to hum. At first, faint as a heartbeat, but steady. She pressed it to her chest, eyes wide. It's not resonance from the nebula. This is different. Someone is singing back. Ira leaned in, her own senses straining. Her breath caught. She's right. The constellation carries threads from beyond. A signal woven deep to avoid Autom eyes, hidden in noise. Chiron's fingers flew over his console, isolating the pattern. Lines of fractured code appeared, looping endlessly. He frowned. It's no choir broadcast. This is guerrilla work. Scrambled, scattered. But his eyes narrowed. It's deliberate. Decoding the whisper. The message came fragmented, broken across shards of static. Cyrus leaned forward, drone hovering, recording it all. Billions will eat this up, he whispered, though his grin was tight. Proof the Accord exists. The comms crackled, then split into words, not a voice, not exactly, but resonance forced into rhythm. The song endures, in fracture we gather. Accord lives. Varric muttered, sounds like poetry. Tessa shook her head. No, it's a key. They're telling us where to find them. Chiron's jaw clenched. Or they're testing us, baiting us. The Autom could twist signals like this. Saran's gaze swept the crew, steady. We have no choice. We chase it. If it's real, we find allies. If it's a trap, they exhaled, voice iron. Then we prove we can survive more than the node. Echoes in the bond. The shard's hum deepened, threading into the bond. For a moment, all 7 Voyagers felt a pulse not their own. Other voices, faint but alive. Shard bearers somewhere in the galaxy, fractured but unbroken. Tessa whispered, tears in her eyes. They're watching, waiting to see if we'll come. Ira smiled faintly. The constellation never leaves us alone. Cyrus raised a brow, drone blinking. Well then, Captain, looks like we've got an audience and a rendezvous. The captain's course. Saran stood at the helm, shoulders straight, hollow still heavy but steady. Plotted Ira. We follow the Accord's thread. Radiance, allies, flame, and noise. All of it together. The braid pulsed, answering in scarred harmony. The nebula parted faintly ahead, opening a corridor of light. And in the distance, like a star half-hidden, the next destination pulsed. The Accord's refuge, buried where silence had not yet claimed. Raptor-One turned her scarred hull toward it, carrying flame into the dark. Varric alone in engineering. Varric sat slouched against a bulkhead, his burnt cybernetic arm cooling in the faint hiss of leaking coolant. Tools lay scattered around him, the ship's open panels glowing dimly like wounds waiting to be closed. He stared at the arm, jaw tight. They'll never let me forget, he muttered. The Autom's voice still crawled in his hollow, whispering chains. But then he remembered Tessa's shard glowing warm against his scars. He exhaled slow. Let them whisper. I'll break their chains every day I draw breath. His fist clenched, sparks biting his skin. Ira with the stars. Ira lingered in the observation alcove, sketchbook open, her hand tracing lines of the nebula, as though to remind herself the constellation was still there. The node's silence had almost unraveled her faith, but the whispers of the accord sang faintly in her thoughts now, carrying proof. She wrote quietly, "The stars are never truly silent. Even in fracture, they sing." Her smile was small, but it reached her eyes. Chiron's doubt. In the comms bay, Chiron replayed the accord's fragmented message again and again, eyes sharp beneath his hood. The song endures. He wanted to believe, but doubt gnawed at him like a parasite. The Alliance had taught him the price of blind faith. "Are you real?" he whispered, "or just another shadow waiting to cut us open?" Yet when he closed his eyes, he felt the braid pulsing faintly, carrying voices not his own. For the first time in years, suspicion didn't feel like the only anchor he had. Tessa's quiet prayer. Tessa sat cross-legged in the crew lounge, shard cradled in her lap. Its hum resonated with the faint accord signal, vibrating like a heartbeat. She whispered softly, almost a prayer, "We found each other through fracture. Let us find them too." Her hum rose into the bond, wrapping faint warmth around the crew even as they drifted apart into their private corners. Darrow's guard. Darrow paced the armory, hands clenched around the grip of his rifle. The ghosts of his fallen squad still lingered, louder than ever after the node's assault. He growled under his breath, "Not again. Not this time." He adjusted the rifle, steadying it. "I'll keep them standing. All of them, even if it kills me." For the first time, his oath wasn't just to ghosts. It was to the 6 voices bound to him now. Cyrus and the lens. Cyrus sat in his quarters, ribs bandaged, his drone hovering silently before him. Its lens was dark. For the first time in years, there was no stream, no stage. Only him. He leaned forward, whispering to the unblinking machine, "If I vanish when no one watches, then at least I'll vanish fighting." His grin flickered, weary but real. But not yet. Not while the noise still needs me. Saran's choice. In the cockpit, Saran sat alone. The captain's chair loomed behind them, its shadow heavy. But instead of turning toward it, they sat at the helm, hands steady on the yoke. Their hollow still ached, scarred by silence. But when they closed their eyes, they didn't hear the Autom's voice. They heard 7 threads woven together, scarred, imperfect, unyielding. "I don't sit because they demand it," Saran whispered to the glass. "I sit because they need me to. That's enough." The nebula swirled beyond, the faint signal of the accord pulsing within. The departure. The crew gathered one last time in the cockpit, tired but steadier. The accord's whisper pulsed faintly in their bond, a thread calling them forward. Saran looked over them, scarred soldier, cautious shadow, starry-eyed believer, scar-bearer, song-weaver, streaming jester, and felt the braid hum alive. "Plot the course," Saran said. "We find the accord." And Raptor-One turned, scarred but burning, pressing deeper into the nebula.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to be notified about upcoming releases to the Raptor-One series, please subscribe. This has been a Bad Karma Drone production.